Hey there, this is Andy Grider, the host of Unique This Week, a production of Uniqueness's Power, a business growth solution show. Look, folks, we've been at this a really long time, bringing in unique guests that are doing something different, something that's blue ocean, something that is unique and powerful and helpful to you in your business. And today we have with us someone who is a tried and true professional. She's got an incredible background in the entrepreneurial coaching space. In fact, she actually was my coach for quite a while, and somebody I have the utmost respect for. Lynda Martin, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Andy, it's a joy to be here, and you were so much fun to work with. So challenging, and what you've done with all that is amazing.
Well, I mean, again, you only are as good as your teachers and the people that showed you the ropes. So I owe you and quite a few other people a lot of kudos for that. But thank you very kindly. We have known each other for a long time. You have always had a penchant for being able to deliver the absolute highest quality, both professional wise and delivery system wise and everything else, when it comes to helping an entrepreneur grow their business. And we'll talk about EOS in just a few minutes here, and what Entrepreneurial Operating System does and why it's different and things like that. But let's start with, for just a minute, a little bit about the background. Let's rewind back to when we first knew each other, and you had Goodwin GrowthWorks and you were building your own entrepreneurial system. And then let's talk about kind of how that evolved into EOS, if you could.
So yeah, I might wind it back just a little farther, Andy, because such an important part of this is traction and passion. So the two kind of feed each other. One is very tactical and, get it done. And the other is why get it done. And then, of course, strategy is an important part of that. Well, the year I graduated from high school here in Atlanta, my dad was fired by my great aunt. And she gave us 2 weeks to get out of the company house, basically. My mother, having been a refugee, stood up on her hind legs and said, and we got a little more time to find a new house and all that. Well, 15 years later, I was in a consortium of partners. We were running 4 businesses together. And I realized that we were starting to not see eye to eye. And so I was able to get out with a little more skin than my dad had, but still essentially lost my community, my profession, my home, everything. Had to leave that all behind and start over again. Well, needless to say, this had me asking a lot of questions. What does success look like? What does it mean to be I'd grown up in a family full of small business owners, some successful, some not. What the heck is going on here? So I decided I would try to find my answers in corporate.
Whoops.
Whoops. But I did find some answers. It was a very fast-paced entrepreneurial company. It was so entrepreneurial that at 350 million, they still didn't have common accounting practices across regions.
That's actually called dysfunctional.
Yes, it was painful. I went back to school and got a master's in human resources development, which is all about models to use when running a business.
Right.
How do you best structure a business so that people are motivated, so that they're trained, so that they have the right jobs, and so that you've got the right targets? And I took that into the entrepreneurial world 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago, when I ran across a friend of a friend who needed a consultant for small business. That was a new thing kind of then, to do it this way. And since then, I have been constantly looking for ways to make it better, faster, more efficient, easier, because people who run their own businesses have so much on their plates that the last thing they need is, here, read this, do this binder. No.
I was going to say and realistically, it's a struggle that most entrepreneurs have. Most small business owners have, is they know they need more than they have. They have no idea where to find it. And as you said, a lot of practitioners hand them a stack of material and say, here, read this, you'll be smarter. And the truth of the matter is they might be smarter, but they'll also be a lot more frustrated. So you came across something that sort of changed that game from here's binders of material to here's implementable, easy to understand, very concrete and concise type of material. So talk about that a little bit, about how EOS sort of came to you, because I think this is a pretty cool story too.
So the thing that was most frustrating me about the model I had pieced together, well, there were two things that were frustrating me. One was that I felt very uncomfortable with the latest according to Lynda. We all have books that pass through our lives and we go, oh, that's great. Or we have books that pass through our lives that everybody else says is great. And we find one little nugget. And so trying to patch that all together, the thing that was frustrating me a lot is that I didn't feel like I had a system that was really proven. And then the second thing, and there really wasn't one at that time. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing was that I was just, the business planning process was driving me nuts. Because what I had learned in corporate, 40-page business plans that go to the bank, well, that didn't help. That didn't help entrepreneurs.
Not at all.
First of all, we don't have that kind of attention span. Not us. No, we don't. And we needed something actionable. Even in my own practice, I needed something like that. So I found this wonderful 2-page business plan that somebody posted on a chat group I was on. And the rule in the chat group was you only posted things that were yours or that you had intellectual property rights for. So this person said, traction is great. And here's what I built out of what I read in traction. And so I just grabbed that and his 2-page instructions and I used it with all my clients. I don't know if you were a client that year, but I used it with all my clients that year.
I was not, but I remember you talking to me about it because it wasn't long after.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So I was stunned with the results. It was awesome. So a few months later, I thought, well, I should read the book. Well, I got about 10 pages in and there was the business plan. I was like, oops. Oops. And then I went online and I found out you could be trained by the writer of the book and that he had tested it in 140 companies. And now we're up to 10,000 companies and we're targeting 100,000. And it's proven. He is OCD. Gino Wickman will tell you he's OCD. He's tested, for example, there are 8 questions on that business plan. He's tried it with 16. He's tried it with 4. He's tried it with 8 different ones. And he has made sure that these are the right questions. So all the tools he's put together then give us a system and a process for implementing it. That's the other thing where a lot of us break down is, oh, here's all these great ideas, but oh, I got to answer the phone. How do I put it in place in the midst of my busy life? And EOS really answers that. And I think we should say EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Tremendously important to point that out. And so when an entrepreneur is first introduced to the entrepreneurial operating system, when you've got a client you're bringing on board, let's talk about the if there's any points where they're saying, this is the best thing since sliced bread and why, or if there's any pushback of any sort at all on understanding. Let's start with the positive side of it. And then let's ask if there's any hurdles you have to get over with them to understand, because realistically, again, this show speaks to a lot of entrepreneurs and it speaks to a lot of people with small businesses. And you've got, when you've got 10,000 case studies of success, 100,000 is not an undoable number fairly quickly. You're at the point of incremental fun right now.
Yes. So yes, and it has given us some challenges as a community. Mm-hmm. It helps that we have a strong Pacific Rim presence. So big base in Australia.
Okay. Cool.
So to answer your question, we're really working on 3 things: vision, traction, and healthy. So vision from the standpoint of where are you going and how are you going to get there? And then traction from the standpoint of how do you hold people accountable and build discipline into the entire organization. Not always a given in a fast-paced entrepreneurial organization. And then how do you do it in a healthy way so that open, honest communication is happening, that is solving problems, but not getting personal. And of course, it gets very personal in a way, but it's not, when you have a common goal, a lot of that stuff kind of fades out. So that's why vision is so important. So when it works, what works is people get very excited about, I can leave behind as the visionary entrepreneur. I can parcel out a lot of the actionable items I've been holding on to. I have this wand that I give to people when they're holding on too tight, and I have to pry their cold, hard fingers off, which is almost all the time. These are our babies, right? We don't want to let them go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's the challenge of working with entrepreneurs, is they're very high energy, very kinetic, and very possessive. Because a lot of times this is their baby. This is something they built from the ground up.
Exactly.
Even in a franchise, I paid a lot for my franchise license. I can't let go of this. This is my seed money. This is what I took all my investment and put it here. So, I mean, again, I don't want folks to think that we're only talking about brand new startups here at all. Because we're not. We're talking about folks that need to hit a next level, that have already things in place. And so let's go ahead and go there next, Lynda. Let's talk about who the ideal client is or isn't. Who's the ideal, who's the not so ideal client. Let's talk about ideal. Go ahead.
Sure. So the ideal client for an EOS implementation is a company with 10 to 250 people in it. And they're privately held, and they have some big vision. The vision may even be just, I want to stay, I need to get it down to where it's not driving me crazy. Sometimes that's as far as we can go at first.
That's actually a pretty a concrete vision of if you know that, you're 5 steps ahead.
We call it the business is running you, you're not running the business. So you got to get that straight before you can grow again.
Right.
So the other thing about an ideal client is that they are open to new ideas and willing to at least allow us to pry their fingers off the baton. And that is probably the most key.
So what's the litmus test for somebody to be able to say to themselves they're going to be able to do that?
Well, I would say, let me come in and talk to you and your team for 90 minutes. Or first of all, let's have a 20-minute phone conversation. I've been doing this a minute, and I can tell, usually, I sometimes still get fooled, but I can tell that somebody is going to listen. They're going to be coachable. That's what I'm always looking for. Are they coachable? And then we do a 90-minute kind of workshop with their leadership team. And from there, we can usually tell, is it going to work or is it not? I have some key questions. I run them through the model, the process. And by the end, we usually know if we can work together. So there's no charge for that. But, you asked when the impact first starts getting felt. Often I will have people tell me after that free 90-minute meeting, we have never talked about these things before. And we went back and we made some changes right away.
It's really refreshing to hear those kind of things when you've affected somebody before you even brought them on as a client. And I think that if there's a testimony to this that jives to the heart and spirit and soul of you, it's being able to do that. Because one of the things that I see is fulfilling in this model and again, I know you as a friend and a coach. It's, you and I both at the core are, let's help other people. So it makes a huge difference when you're able to go in and right up front effectuate actual realistic positive change. Um, Now, once you get in and they say, hey, you know what? I'm your Huckleberry. I want to work with you. I'm ready to roll. What does that look like, Lynda? I mean, what does the implementation process, the sort of onboarding process, is this something that takes years, months, weeks, days? Where are we at in process so we can set some expectations for folks? If they look at
Great.
this and say, wow, that sounds great, I like it so far, let's talk about the next steps.
So that's a great question, Andy, because the key is the implementation. The model, the tools are great. We have 20 simple, practical tools that help a business simplify, delegate, get structure and system in place. The process of implementing it takes about 2 years.
Okay.
The first step is to get the traction tools in place, an accountability chart, a way to manage your meetings. We do the kind of the grunt work first, because we found that if we did the vision first, it just joined all your other plans on the shelf.
I wish that wasn't such a familiar statement.
You are not alone. You are not alone. So we do one day at a time. Our agreements are one day at a time, and our guarantee is for one day at a time. So this is not a system. This is one of the biggest fears when you hire a consultant. I'm going to hand them a check for $30,000 or $50,000, and then what? Or I'm going to sign this agreement where I'm committed. No, one day at a time. So the first day is about getting these tools initially in place. Then there's a practice period of 30 days. And then we start building the vision. And again, it's broken into 2 pieces over 30 days so that people have time to test it and play with it. So we spend 60 days building the foundation. After that, we meet once a quarter for a full day offsite with the leadership team. And people at first go, I can't do that. Well, there's a problem right there. Mm-hmm. If you and your leadership team can't leave your business for 6 or 8 hours, then something's really, really wrong.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Yes. Have you been on vacation in the last, lifetime?
Yeah.
So that is an important piece of it. And our goal is that for the rest of their business life, they will do these quarterly meetings. And once a year, the quarterly meeting will last for 2 days so that they can do an annual deep dive. And at some point, I step away because they've got it. Our goal is, and the marvelous success that I see is when it gets built into the DNA of the organization. So building EOS into the DNA of the organization is my job.
I love it. That's awesome. I mean, because again, what you're providing is a structure, framework, foundation, all sort of that can be, how should we say it, morphed into place, even around an existing business. It's not like you have to tear the business down and rebuild it by any means. You can actually, support and move and structure things so that you're not in that position, which is awesome. Again, I think that's another huge fear entrepreneurs have.
Yes.
Small business folks have is, oh my God, if I hire a coach, they're going to come in and rip everything apart, because they've had it happen before. The coach comes in and says, okay, we're changing everything. All systems, all everything. It's all going to change. Now we're going to use the stuff I tell you to use. And it's a risky run that make sure they're right. I mean, you mentioned earlier, the all things according to Lynda. Well, when you've got something that's a nation proven wide system, it's not just one person saying so. And there's that third party validation, there's case studies, there's all the extra pieces and all of that in the background, which is fantastic. You've got all these extra pieces working for you. So when you get those kind of things rolling, let's talk about a client of yours in general terms that is somebody that you've had a great success story with.
Well, just recently, one of my clients sold.
Oh, wow.
And that was the goal. Everybody has a different measure of success. I have another client whose goal is to pass this on to his children who are 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, I get the range. But this person, this company wanted to sell. They've been in business, over a decade, and in a technology space where there was lots of opportunity. So they had been self-implementing EOS, which you can do. You can read the book and start self-implementing. And he will say, we thought we were at 80% until we started talking to you. And you asked us some questions and we went, oh, he calls it, we were at the buffet and we didn't like the beets, so we didn't take them. Which I loved. So we went in, I went in, we started having our, going through the process with the goal of selling in 3 to 4 years. Things got put in place enormously fast. He was very determined. And there was some, you asked earlier about pushback. Sometimes there's pushback from members of the team who start seeing their roles more clearly defined and their accountability more put in place. And that can be confrontive. And we all know that as we're building our businesses, there comes a time when the people who got you here aren't going to get you there.
Right.
And I have seen people step up. They start at 6 million and they're still rolling at 25 million. And I've seen other people go, I can't do this. I need to go back to another small company that's getting started.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to do that in a very respectful, open, honest way so that any turnover on the leadership team or within the company is good for everybody.
Right.
So anyway, they saw an opportunity about 2.5 years into the process. And all of a sudden, man, we ramped it up. I was terrified. I'm like, I don't know if we can do this, but okay. And they did it. They closed, like I said, a few weeks ago, big multiple on revenue.
Wow, awesome.
And they're thrilled, and they have a place in the new company that they're, with the merger that they're working with, and the cultures fit. Culture is really, really important part of this process. And it's also really dear to me. So if you're going to make the world a better place, which is kind of how I've been since I was little, I want to make the world a better place. I'm a little crazy that way. This is so much better for them and their families. But that was a huge win recently.
That's fantastic. And the nice part you mentioned about this isn't a pigeonhole, square peg round hole type of issue. You're working with all sorts of different people for all sorts of different reasons. And you just also mentioned another thing that's huge is the culture match. This is going to be right for certain companies. It's not going to be right for others. That 20-minute phone call with you, and certainly the 90-minute session with you, is going to help lay bare what needs, to be exposed as far as whether it's going to be a good fit or not. So there's really no risk to anybody for reaching out and saying, hey, I want to know more. And so, if somebody wanted to do that, Lynda, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out to you? Well,
the best way is just give me a call.
Okay.
And if I can't answer, I will call you back. So that number is 404-697-5212. Another good way is to email me at lmartin@goodwingrowth.com. And I'm sure you'll put that up on the screen.
We will, both the number and the email.
Yeah.
That'll be running right underneath you. So anybody that is interested, please feel free to reach out. This is one of those rare instances where I can actually give a personal endorsement because, and a small testimonial. Lynda was very, very kind when she said that, I've managed to take everything that she taught me and implement it. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I probably still need to work on. And I know there's a lot of good that would come of doing work again. That said, one of the things I can say is that Lynda did transform everything I was doing at the time and has continued to do that as things have moved forward. And she's only got better tools and more experience and a better track record than she even had then, which was already stellar. So, jump in with both feet, take that 20-minute consult, take that 90-minute meeting, find out if EOS works for your company. And really, this is a great time to do that, folks. There's a lot of companies that are really taking off coming out of where we've been, the sort of dark ages that we've been in. There's a lot of people that are crashing and burning too, that need the help to get back up off, get the cinders out of their knee and get back up and start running again. There's a lot of in between on that as well. So take the time, evaluate. If you want to add a vision with traction that's a healthy manner to the culture of your company and really explode your growth and explode what you do in a positive, responsible way, and a mature way. This is really one of the best systems I've ever seen. And Lynda, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Andy. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thank you. My name is Andy Grider. This is Unique This Week, a production of Uniqueness is Power, a business growth solution show. Stick with us because each week we bring you somebody new who's out there swimming in the blue ocean. And if they happen to be in a pink ocean, they're finding a way to ride that wave on into the shore and bringing you something that's going to make your business a better place to be, help you define various things, whether it's marketing, whether it's processes, whether it's vision, whether it's traction, whether it's culture. There's all sorts of different ways our guests help out. And again, please feel free to reach out to them. Let them know you saw them here, and we'll be glad to take things from there and make sure you're well taken care of. So thank you again very much, Lynda, for being here.
Thank you, Andy.